have 100 grand just to get on a vendor's list, right? So a lot of our IRs are very small boutique companies. Our biggest client is 500 employees, right? And they're not very security mature. But they have very old, antiquated IT stacks and so on. So it's a lot of challenges we get. Also, a lot of these companies, they make money, e-commerce, something along those lines. They don't have, I can't log into my computer today. I got an email saying all my data is now being sold and I need to pay a rent. What do I do, right? If someone was to get hired as a Sander? Matt, sorry, I didn't see it. Oh, okay. Matt, if you were hired as a CISO within your first 30 days and you got ransomwared, our business email account compromised, what would happen? What's your mind? What's your emotion?
Well, first I got to deal with the situation at hand, right? So,
yes, but what's your emotion? What would you be?
my emotion?
Yeah, emotionally.
Emotionally? Probably going to be shocked because I'm going to have to go into reaction mode at that point.
You're a lot braver man than me. I'd be scared because I have I'm scared, right? Like, and I've dealt with that with CISOs, right? Because we come an incident response firm and they're like, what do we do? They're always asking us like, what's going on next? Well, what are you doing? Kind of micromanaging, they don't know much. Maybe they'll come from a technical background, or a lot of times, they're not even CISOs, they're just like, you're the person in charge, or we're talking to the lawyer, right? And the lawyer's kind of like the head of the bridge for the engagement. So this is all for you to take home. We're gonna walk through 3 different scenarios, all things that are based off what we have done at JRPC, and we kind of made it for Cactus Core here. Who knows pick a roll? Pick a roll. The incident response steps. These are the most important things to have in your back pocket. So a back pocket. So in the Army, we did a lot of what's called hip pocket training, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that as we go through the steps. In my opinion, as a CISO, you are a field general. You're not the grunt in the trench. You're not assaulting an enemy position. You are commanding it. Everyone looks up to you. You are padded. You know, you give the confidence to everyone that's going to work it. You might inherit an internal security operations center that might be juniors. I worked at a company, we had no idea what we were doing, and we were looking at really big companies and protecting them when we shouldn't. We didn't have the expertise, right? So you as the confident, maybe you have that technical background, you can give that confidence, you can direct it, assault that position, hey, pull those logs, hey, what's Active Directory like, pull the hives, you know, et cetera, right? So I believe as a CISO, as a field general, the 2 steps that are the most important in pick a roll, planning. Planning is number 1. And we had a talk earlier, it was brilliant, the workshop earlier, Dara, thank you, Daria, I think of the old MTV show, I'm really bad with names. But we have that talk, and it was awesome, and I kind of touch on it in a couple of pages. But that first 100 days, you have to start your planning phase. Well, I would say assessment and planning. Where are we at? Let's do an audit. Let's talk to my stakeholders, right? Who's running my IT department? I might not have a security operations center. Who's in management? Cool. How many, when you got in your position, Jesus, right? Correct? Thank you. When you got in your position, how many people did you have to talk in management? New company, right? Or were you hired from within?
Within.
Hey, who did not get hired from within, maybe? Cool, thank you. Sorry, it's gonna be a little bit better. Thank you, Sander. So, how many people did you have to talk to that your compatriots, right? Your peers, and you're not in charge of, you're not below you, but people that you're equals to within the organization? A ton? 1, okay, 1. Still works, right? But you had to interface with them because your success and their success matter. When you're a CISO, you're kind of the black sheep in a lot of ways. You're a cost center. You do not make money for the organization. So let's say you're working, who works for a software engineering firm or anything along those lines, developing? Yeah, you get in the way of engineers every single day. Hey, we'll just throw in an S3 bucket, bro. Who cares, right? Like, dude, oh my God. I have horror stories of developers doing stuff like, and you have to be like, and they're like, dude, that's gonna cost money and time, bro. Bro, come on, bro, like, don't be that way. But you have to be the adult in the room, right? But having the working relationship, that happens in the planning phase. You're meeting your stakeholders so on and so forth, and you're beginning. Hey, let's get to a certain regulatory compliance. Let's start with NIST or something easy to go. I can explain it to developers and their managers, and we can work with it. Do you guys have a CI/CD pipeline in your company? All right, cool. First step, there's so much cowboy stuff when it comes to software. We kind of leverage ourselves in the cloud incident response place, so a lot of our stuff is like, when we do vCISO work, do you have a CI/CD pipeline for, that's part of SOC too, right?
Integrated security into that pipeline.
Exactly, integration test and unit testing.
Where you're taking it from whatever, hopefully, from dev or test over on the side, you want to make sure it actually meets it.
Exactly. He's talking about testing for compliance and so on. I'm gonna try to repeat the questions because we have a lot of crosstalk, and I'm probably dominating other workshops, so let's get over that. Everything else, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, these steps are very technical. You wanna go to your incident leaders. Maybe you have an insurance company, maybe you don't, you hired a firm. That was responsibility. You're the general, you have to figure it out, but when you're like, let's say, again, I'm gonna make a lot of Army references, you are in charge of the overall operation, you're not in charge of the beach landing, right? You delegated that out, so you have to trust your leaders beneath you, right? You can't micromanage, because I've been on so many incident responses where micromanaging starts happening and you're just getting in the way, right? So those things are, especially if you come from a technical background, easier to do. You can step in, especially in smaller organizations. You might be pulling the logs and doing log analysis with your guys. You might you might be like, hey, malware analysis is going to take like 2 months. Let me start with that while you guys, contain it and so on, et cetera, right?
So one question.
Yes.
The sheet that you provided is very technical oriented. What about communication? I don't see that here.
I like the critique, and next time I do this, that's a good thing. So yeah, no, we talk about communication, and we get into the sort of the incidents and the scenarios. Thank you, because now it's on the forefront of my mind. I appreciate it, Sander. But yeah, no, communication, and when we get into an incident response, I don't want to spend too much time on the front page, but when we get into incident response, it's communication. It's getting that bridge, getting the stakeholders involved, correct? You had a question, Andy.
Around planning, on the planning side, you've also got to understand the data that you retain, because privacy laws come into play, and you've got to be able to manage that. So you need to involve your attorneys so that you manage the privacy laws appropriately.
So everyone over here that couldn't hear Andy, he was talking about when the data retained during an incident and getting, I'm sorry.
It's data classification.
Data classification during an incident, very important because the legal repercussions from federal, state, class action, and liability, et cetera. Thank you for that. Does anyone else have anything to add on the planning and lessons learned, maybe? So lessons learned real quick, we'll just do it because I spent way too much time on the planning, is it's important. Incident happens, and it's gonna happen. I don't care if you have CrowdStrike, I don't care if you have every single extreme awesome vendor there is. It's gonna happen, they're gonna get beat. There's 0 days every single day, there's EDR evasion, et cetera, et cetera. How can we learn from this? How do we fortify the perimeter? I was an infantryman. When we dug a trench and we were doing nothing, twiddling our thumbs in the field, we weren't twiddling our thumbs in the field, we were improving our defenses. We're never okay in cybersecurity. We are never okay. I hate paranoia, I hate FUD, I hate FOMO, I hate these things, but having a little bit of it will take you a mile. Anyone, before we move on?
Yeah. So in your preparation, so you could tie your recovery into your preparation, right? So you should be doing some tabletops.
Yes.
To make sure that you can recover your data. Make sure you know where your keys are. Hopefully you're encrypting that data before you store it somewhere. Understand like your RTOs and things like that.
Yes, 100%. So he was talking about tying that into tabletop and so on, which is what we're talking about next, which is the life cycle of tabletop. So tabletops are, you're playing Dungeons and Dragons essentially for your team. What if scenarios, right? Often, who has a significant other that asked them if would you love me if I was a worm? Would you, as a CISO, it's, would you love me if all our production servers were encrypted? Same thing, right? Would you pay me after that, right? But tabletops, very, very, very important to get through. Who's done tabletops? We're essentially doing them today 3 times. What are, like, in your experience of tabletops, Chris, what are some things that what are some like shortfalling of tabletops that like don't quite, like you do a tabletop, does everyone just twiddle their thumbs, yeah, let's just get through this, like, yeah, boring?
Not prepared, but not really understanding the security side of it. Like maybe they're on the operational side, they come into it and they're like, deer in the headlights kind of thing, like this can happen.
Yes. Who else went through tabletops? Andrew.
Yeah, really it's just buy-in is what I see.
Buy-in, right? Before we do a tabletop, like I said in preparation, you have to prepare for a tabletop. Who plays Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, tabletop RPGs? I'm the only one. Jeez. Yeah, so your daughter who does this, you have to prepare. You have to make a character. People have to expect you to know the world and the rules of the game, right? If you go to a tabletop, you're like, yo, what's up, bro? You just finished your cigarette or whatever. I don't know if you guys smoke. Cigar. I'm a cigar smoker. But, you just finished that, and you're like, what's up, bro? What's going on, guys? And you're like, oh, I'm the security engineer today? Okay. And you don't even know what a security engineer, you never did your homework. So it sounds like institutional buy-in. Like, are you bought into the team and the company, being prepared for this, taking it seriously, right? Bob, you've done. What are some shortcomings of tabletops you've seen?
Titles. Would you follow me if you took away my title? So it was important, but it also means, to lead and get things done. You don't have to have the title. You can be the lowest person on the totem pole and still get that work done and do that tabletop. It's who's the driver, who's curious, who does the hunting, who does the pushing. You don't have to have a title to do that. You have to get the work done.
Yes, 100%. So what Bob said, just for everyone over here, titles in the tabletop, making sure even the lowest person, let's say you bring a level 1 analyst into the tabletop exercise, letting him talk, and he's the front line, he's the private, right? He knows, we had a funny thing in the Army, it's called the Army way or the smart way, we always pick the Army way, right? But that private might be able to say, hey, why are we doing it like this? Or, hey, actually, we don't have that visibility into these systems. Like, we need Sysmon because of, or whatever. He might have a good idea, and that might come out in tabletops. And we identify things in tabletops like that. That is super valuable. Oh, I didn't know we needed log aggregation tools. What are or maybe we're not pulling Windows event logs for whatever reason. Or maybe we're pulling them from the endpoints like desktops and workstations, but we're not pulling them from production servers and wherever they may be, right? Anyone else on lifecycle? Yeah, communication, right?
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So.
Yeah, exactly. So this is sparring before the UFC fight or the Muay Thai fight or Jiu-Jitsu tournament or whatever you do.
Anything is worse.
Yes. And also, a lot of things come out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, as part of your planning, you probably ought to, if you've never done it, plan the sequence of your recovery, because you bring up one system, you may need the other one first.
Crawl, walk, run. So, correct me.
BCP, and then DR before you go to the execution of the tabletop.
100%. And like we're going to go through today what they said. It's not just one thing. Everyone thinks like ransomware or a business email account compromise, but what if it's something as simple as you open it, left an S3 bucket open? How are you going to deal with that egg on your face? We're talking, you're a CISO, you have to be the voice of, you have to not only think of the technical, but you have to think of the appearance of your company in crisis. And the things you say might show up in court, stuff like that. So anyways, that's just kind of a life cycle thing. You don't have to use it, but crawl, walk, run. In the Army, we crawled, when we did like room clearing, we crawled, we walked, we ran, right? Same thing with IR plans. This is kind of your walk. It could be your crawl and your walk, but I don't want to get too messed up with analogies. Anyways, moving on. I just also did the first 100 days. I didn't know, I knew Dara was doing hers, but just to piggyback off of hers, these are really important days. Crisis can happen, culture building. You're a new CISO, right? That's culture building is important. This is something that think about. Maybe you can look at, man, what should I do? You know, I just got there. We'll talk to stakeholders, right? Man, it's been a month. What do I do? Oh, strategic strategy. Like, maybe we need to move off of off-prem. Maybe I need to work with the CTO or, you know, the engineers or whoever it might be. Any questions, comments, concerns with that? Anyone want to add anything to that page? Do a quick look. Okay. I'm going to start picking on this side more because I keep on going to this side. Okay, I think we're on to our, okay, let's talk about Cactus Core, right? So really quickly, I just kind of highlighted some points. There's more to it, but it's some quick points. I also just wanted to save money on paper, so I didn't do the whole thing. So look, we're a 5,000 person company, right? How big is your company?
13 people.
13 people, right? Would you, if you were in charge of a 5,000 person's company security posture, would you be like, that's a big jump?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big jump, right? Andy said this is a medium-sized company. I don't know. Like, it's a pretty big company to me. We're a household name. It's like it's like Kleenex. Essentially, we're Kleenex of the engineering world when we're Cactus Core. The C-suite, though they were kind of stuck in the past, like, we're engineering, blue collar, maybe whatever. Now we need to start thinking, because we want to do big data, right? Now we have a forward-thinking C-suite, right? Who deals with a C-suite on a day-to-day basis? Okay, so without like making, I know this is being recorded, so you don't have to like, whatever. When a C-suite's like forward-thinking, do you see any negatives with that, or side effects? Not negatives, but side effects.
Most of the time, yes, because they have a lot of assumptions.
Assumption, yeah. So forward-thinking, though, I wish I wanted buy-in from my C-suite. It's kind of a double-edged sword. You want that more than not caring, obviously, but a forward-thinking C-suite might be like, hey, I heard about this thing called CrowdStrike, right? And we should do that. Well, we already have Carbon Black. It's like, well, switch it to CrowdStrike because I saw the vendor commercial. Dude, it happens all the time. Cactus Core, like it's been beat on in every single workshop, we're not mature yet. And we have legacy systems. So not only do we not have a mature security posture, our outlook, our vision's important. We have executive and technical debt as well to pick you off the morning, right? So really quickly, everywhere I kind of put little blocks. You can bullet point things, add things for notes. You just got hired, Kamal? You just got hired as a CISO for Cactus Core. Reading this profile, what is your first major concern that's keeping you up at night?
Probably the 5,000 people.
5,000 people. She thinks the weight of 5,000 people, and it is a lot, because when we talk about bigger companies, we talk about a bigger attack surface, mainly of phishing, et cetera, and all that. So yes. Erica, what do you think?
More interested in big data, increased compliance needs.
Why big data and compliance needs?
Considering I oversee the GRC team for the state.
Oh, awesome. So you're the perfect person. So regulatory compliance. During the Biden administration and the FTC had a lot more movement and weight behind it in terms of getting more regulatory compliance and so on and so forth, where, back like 15, 16 years ago, I can imagine, and that was before my time, I'm probably making some assumptions. When you got hacked, it was kind of like, who cares? I remember the Uber hack, it was like 7, 8 years ago, that they treated it like that. They literally treated, the CTO treated it like it wasn't a big deal. And I believe he escaped jail time. Do you remember this, Bob? The Uber hack. He got outed. Did he go to jail? Oh, he went to court though, right? He didn't go to jail, yeah. So I was making some assumption. But that's another thing, is like, it's not just your job where you're gonna get fired. There are, the suit men the G-men that will come and they're gonna want some answers.
Individuals that really can get hammered, the CFO and the CISO.
So he just said the two C-suites that will get hammered is the CFO and the CISO. Yes. And, well, we're talking about one of them. Criminally liable. We're in a adult position. It is not fun in games, right?
And unfortunately, the CISO typically doesn't have the same ear to the CEO that the CFO does, and that's what's got to change.
Yes, and so CISO, I want to hammer this again. He has said the CISO does not have the same pool with the CEO that the CFO does. Why can people tell me that?
Who writes the check?
From the CEO's perspective, they're not seeing the business impact.
They're a cost center. You are a cost center. Here's a really good thing to put in your back pocket. You don't make money, you protect money. You protect the appearance of the organization, and that is important. Like, how many people lost faith in Equifax when that hack happened? I mean, you don't have a choice of Equifax, but you know what I mean. Like, you know, yeah, exactly, right? You look at them as kind of a joke. We just had something that happened with a certain new government organization that this got breached, you know, or when the Affordable Care healthcare thing got hacked at the beginning of the Biden administration. We lose trust, and rightfully so, right? And, you know, it's our job as CISOs to do that. Okay, everyone turn to scenario 1, BEC, business email compromise. All right, it's going to be a little bit more interactive now. Okay, cool. Everyone knows it. Who doesn't know what a business email compromise is? Hannah, tell me what a business email compromise is. She's my salesperson. Don't worry about it. John, you want a tell the class what a business email compromise is.
So, somebody using email to try to get to the C-suite or finance to get them to do something they should.
You are really participating? No, don't shut up. You're gonna be my last resort. Business email compromise. Allie? Yeah.
That's when they use email to try to get you to do something that's fraudulent, like transfer money and.
Yeah. Essentially, we always hear the term social engineering. You know, I send an email and I use a typographic attacked email saying accounts payable at cactuscore.com or something. I think this is the way I set up the scenario. Yeah, someone said, I'm John Smith, the CFO, for example. Accounts payable, transfer this money, so on and so forth, right? And I just gave an example here of like, click on this, sign in, or anything. Andy.
So, what's the difference between a phishing and a BEC?
A phishing and a BEC. Well, BEC is the social engineering aspect to get them to do, not necessarily a compromise.
Unless they got into the email and they're sending it on the behalf of that.
Which I call business email account compromise, and I know that's someone I just put. Yeah, it's a little.
Those 3 scenarios are really key to what you're trying to get across, because if you're not paying attention and someone breaks in, they can do exactly that, and it comes across as truly the CEO does all the signatures.
Yes. So a little story before we start doing the interactive piece here is that my first IR was this. It was a Silicon Valley company that did furniture, and someone got onto one of the emails for the some accounting department, and they sent something to the CFO, hey, you need to sign off on this. Now this is a multi-million, like close to $100 million revenuing company. Account compromise, no one detected it. You know, that happens, right? The CFO signs off on $250,000 of transfers twice in an 8-month period. Twice. This is a Silicon Valley company. Twice, 5K. And guess what? Swift didn't save them. Because who signed off on the transaction? The CFO signed off on the transaction, right? So thank you, Andy. You're getting my memory wheels turning. Cool, so let's talk about this in terms of the BEC stuff. Did I not? Oh, no, I just added questions for the cloud hack stuff. I just added, hey, emails like this, be aware of it. Who has never dealt with phishing? Everyone has, probably, just through, their emails and so on. Anyone else have anything to add for a business email compromise?
I mean, what you're saying, you're just saying general phishing, but I would say it should be more like spear phishing, like really in tune to that person.
Yes, going after specific Bob.
Your first description the fact that they don't want policies and procedures, they're reluctant to do those, allows or opens that door. But that also says to me in the middle management company that they're buying product, hoping the product fixes it.
Yes.
But they may not do all the configurations and everything. They can buy a product with 1,000 features and they're using 2 of them and they really don't configure it to do the work that it's meant to do. So that's a management 101. Those 2 things. They typically, if they don't like policy and procedures, they think they're putting the product in, and then that solves their problem. That's the silver bullet for C-level.
100%. So business email compromise, a lot of it is, I mean, other than like the technical aspect is detecting the phishing, right? But a lot of it has to do with institutional procedure stuff. As a CISO, not only are you in charge, probably hand in hand with the CTO, of technology and sort of that stuff, but you have to look at the company as a whole, right? What are we doing with the data? What are we doing with procedures like such as transferring money to accounts and so on, right? Like how are we, you have to look at everything. I was talking to Ryan, he's the state CISO, and for the elections, and we're talking about election security, and he wasn't talking about a lot of hacking going on. He was talking about bomb threats. He's a state CISO, he need to deal with the bomb threats, right? You think that's more of a physical space, and CISOs deal with the physical space as well, right? I don't, I just do digital stuff. What's up? Yeah, exactly. We talk about the CIA triad and so on, availability. Anyone have questions on this first scenario? It's kind of like your basic level, you know, you're gonna get this 1,000 times a year thing. We good? All right, cool, let's go to the cloud hack. So this is when who works for the software engineering company? Yeah. You guys use AWS, Azure, GCP, Alibaba, anything like that? What's up?
Yes, yes, and no.
Oh yeah. I put Alibaba in there, just gotcha. You know, do you guys use contractors as well? All right, cool. This is gonna be perfect for you. Do you give them company machines?
That's a good question.
Great question. Write that down. It's a bullet point right there. You go back. Anyway, I asked him since Matt. Sorry, I'm really bad with names. Matt said, I asked him like, hey, in terms of this cloud hack, he works at a software engineering company. I was like, do you have contractors, like 1099s? And then I asked like, what's the hardware considerations, right? When we let contractors in, are we giving them hardware? What's the risk of this thing? Now, if you hire contractors at a software engineering company and they're delivering code, they're giving you a product after the fact, you put it in a Git repo, you don't necessarily need to worry about what's on their machines necessarily. Maybe you might want to be like, let's do a static and dynamic analysis of this code base or this web app or API or whatever to make sure there's no backdoors. And that's part of CI/CD pipeline. But if they have like malware on their machine, it's like, they're just writing the code. We're going to change credentials, Bob.
I got a bigger gap, and that is the modem and the router that they're using. If they're at home working and you can give them a computer, but their modem and the router is, they bought the cheapest one wherever, et cetera, right? It's the easiest thing to hack. That's where, all the cyber criminals go.
So
yeah.
He's actually leading something. Most people use a Netgear or something like that at home. I bought an enterprise type solution, and I was on Spectrum, and I was getting daily hits on my Spectrum network.
Did you have a static IP or dynamic IP? Did you have a static or dynamic IP?
It was dynamic.
Okay.
And then I was getting attacked regularly on my firewall. People were trying to intrude into my network from Spectrum, from within that network. So if you're in Netgear and you didn't change your false, guess what? You're in your system.
I mean, how many times do we see IoT stuff on the home Wi-Fi that's beaconing out, right? And that, when we have work from home, those are another considerations. I'm gonna try to go back to this real quick. Really good addition though, and that's a consideration that we all need.
So there is one thing you should have a concern about. So if you have somebody writing, I'll give you a real world example. If you have somebody who's writing code for you that's going to be put into production, now it depends on to what level and if they're compiling. Right?
Yes.
Because we know that Xcode at one point in time was popped, right? And so some of our problems are these libraries and different things, and so they're compiling and they're putting backdoors that you don't even know about.
Yeah, I want to call it a supply chain attack, but it isn't a supply. It's called something different. But like open source. What was the Java library? Someone help me. That just Log4j. Thank you. I was like, Node.js Log4j. Yeah.
So yeah, there's two things I'll say. If you follow the SolarWinds hack, it took a year. The SolarWinds hack. Does anybody know?
So remember, SolarWinds. He's talking about the SolarWinds hack. Can everyone hear back here? Am I talk? Okay, I'm gonna try to repeat questions for you guys.
The SolarWinds hack, they actually injected code a year earlier, and then waited for the perfect opportunity, and that code didn't do anything. But it was all right. So that's one. Node4j, if you actually are having a all your open source software like Node has vulnerabilities in it.
Yes.
And the only way you determine whether or not those vulnerabilities exist and check the licenses to make sure they're valid for what you're delivering is to run something like Defendapod and NPM audits.
Yes.
So if you're not doing that, you ought to be doing
And like web app or application pen testing, so on and so forth. So back to the scenario. Sorry, I took the tangent. Sorry. So this scenario, right? This is going to hit on a few different things. Acceptable use policy. As a CISO, when we talk about policy drives culture. Policy should not be boilerplate. If you have a boilerplate policy, you need to take a look at it. I'm talking about acceptable use policies, data policies, anything. Bring your own device policies, so on and so forth. So in this scenario, we have an engineer that we hired out, 1099. He's playing Minecraft, Valheim. What's another he's downloading mods to his Minecraft server on his work computer. Pokemon Go, whatever it might be, right? So what does this hit on? Tierra? What's up? Tierra. What does this hit on in terms of he's using his work computer and he's downloading game mods or writing them?
You shouldn't have access to even download that to begin with.
Why?
That should be locked down
Why?
because they have to do more risk assessments.
And what covers this? How does a contractor know or an employee know I can't use this for video games?
AUP.
Acceptable use policy, because if you didn't say it, then how are they supposed to know? Everyone works at a company. Every time you get hired on, you go through the HR checks. Who just clicks the thing? Yeah, I sign, right? But it has to be done because you've got to get covered. Because maybe he gets fired for this, and he comes and sues you. Well, I never knew I couldn't use Minecraft mods on this work computer. It's not in your acceptable use policy, and now you have egg on your face, and you're the CISO. Can I have him first real quick?
Where's MFA in this?
Exactly, too. I have a client right now. He just talked, Standard just talked about MFA in terms of this scenario. To complete the scenario real quick, just for the recording, the contractor's account gets compromised by an info stealer, and he implied, where's the MFA? Good find. Good. Where's the multi-factor authentication, right? Now, there's one or two scenarios to do with that. It could be adversary in the middle attack where they use evil jinx to steal the token, or we don't have 2FA. I have a client right now, 35 employees. Do you know what they can't have turned on? No, MFA. So I have a client right now that if I enabled MFA, now this should not be done. If they enabled MFA, the entire company would cease to work. Why? Because they're all the median age is 55, and they didn't want. And here's the thing: is like I can tell them till I'm blue in the face. And here's another thing. This hits on another point. As CISOs, you have to meet the business operational side. You can't just be like, we're going to do zero trust. I'm not going to name the company, but there was a big software engineering company that we've all heard that they went to zero trust architecture, and I'm 50-50 on it. I think it'd be implemented some places not. And they used a certain vendor, I don't think I can say because of the camera, of whatever, I don't know what my liability is, but like they use a certain zero trust vendor, and you had engineers, multi-factor authentication during their product launches, like, God, and the evil god of demos comes and just wrecks it. You have people like, why can't I access certain thing? And they have to open up a ticket and yada, yada, yada. So we have to, that impeded business operations. But a CISO put his foot down and said, we have to do it. And I would say, good on you for throwing your weight around, but let's meet business operations halfway, right? I'm very much sympathetic to the business operations side, Bob.
Real quick, they'll do it on the computers, but they forget about these things and have mobile data management or MDM on the phones, and then that breaks that whole scenario also, right?
Well, what if your phone's turned off and you have MFA on your phone instead of using a password manager like Bitward and 1Password that has the token in the browser, right? My phone's off, now I can't access anything. Andy, you wanted that?
So the first thing I want to ask is how in the world did you allow someone to install this software in your machine? So when you handed out that contract, you shouldn't allow someone to install it?
Yes.
One. Two, that's part of the acceptable use, but you've got to be able to control it. You've got to disable the ability to do that.
App control and so on and so forth.
Right, and that's what the MDM does, as well as any other kind of.
So this is the now we talked about policy, now we got to talk about technology.
And two, it's three is around people not wanting to do something.
Yes.
The business operation. Sometimes it requires a CISO to put his foot down, and the reason why is the data is so sensitive.
Yes.
That the company will, it's an existential crisis if you allow it to be breached.
100%. Debt collectors, for example, would be the perfect example of this.
So any kind of PII.
Yes. Hospitals, so on and so forth. Yes. Yeah, so we just talked about policy. We got to talk about technology. Andy put up a good point. We need to have MDMs, sort of app control. We need to control what's on. Even when we get a vendor that's we hiring them for software development, we need to make the assessment. Do we send them our own computers? Do they have access to our production, our development systems? If they do, send them a computer. Send them a computer and put your stuff. You're managing it, right? Now, if they're just like giving you products.
There are various options there. I mean, as long as you do risk-based authentication, but you can do things with certain requirements to be met in order to allow access to the system.
Does everybody understand the difference between an MFA that uses 2 channels versus 1 channel?
MFA that uses 2 channels instead of 1 channel. Go ahead, Andy.
Because one channel is when I do MFA with an email. Well, if I have a hacker looking at my email, they got everything they need to get in.
Business email account compromise, yeah.
Now, if you just understand that SMS is not real secure, but at least they're on a different channel.
Yes.
So if you were doing an authentication, you put the password in, that's on one channel, and then MFA request authentication is on a different channel. If you do it on the same channel, you're not secure. Just keep that in mind.
Yes. And so I know we're talking about the planning and lessons learned we're kind of concentrating on that portion instead of technical. We're kind of touching up with technology and so on. But when we get a business email account I call it a cloud compromise because words and acronyms, yada, yada, yada. What are our first steps when this happens as CISOs? We hear about this, right? How do we hear about this? Did anyone read the scenario? I have 2 minutes. We're not going to make it to the third. So we're just going to kill this. I have a question for you, Bob. Is security by policy alone enough?
No.
Why?
Because it only hits one portion of it. You've got the business, you've got the management, you've got your customer policies, you've got outside client, et cetera. You've got your supply chain.
Yes.
When you start hitting all those requirements, that's your policies. They don't end with.
Andy, I have to cut you off because I want to get 1 point in here. I apologize. You've been great, by the way. In the detection, who contacts us? The FBI contacts us and says, hey, we saw your data being sold on lolseek.io. So we have to, again, I just wanted to tie it back again. Now we're dealing with the federal government, and they're saying, depending what data we have, and I said specifically, this was to do with, the big data and so on. So we have a lot of things in there. The third scenario has to do with defense contracting, and that has a whole, we have to look about federal stuff. Are we on FedRAMP? Yes. Yeah, you probably don't. You probably want to push them back. They're a little pushy.
So if you're a CISO that's my suggestion would be whenever something like this happens, the first phone call you make is to your attorney.
Correct. Oh, I want to piggyback off that. I want to finish real quickly. When you have an incident, the first thing you do, stakeholders, it's called a bridge. You get the stakeholders involved, you get them in the bridge, attorneys are involved. So let's say it's a cloud hack, you get the manager involved, you're there, you're the field general, you are controlling. I think that's all my time. So.
The reason why you go to the attorney is not only for the guidance and the regulations, but it's also client-friendly.
Yes, 100%. All right, cool. Hope you guys enjoyed my workshop.